Hi, I'm Jack Savoretti, and you're watching MUZO.TV.
Welcome home. Your first time in Poland.
Yeah, my first time. Very honored to be here.
How do you feel here?
Well, it's literally been a couple of hours. So I was my grandfather, like we were just speaking, my grandfather has Polish roots. So I thought I was going to get off the plane and have this feeling of I'm welcome home, but it's still early days. I'm just getting into the culture, but I already like the Polish humor.
But when you come back, you can tell your family, I was there.
I was there.
I was there.
My mother is very excited that I'm here. Yeah, I mean, it's actually, I think, quite emotional for her because she's never been to Poland and she never came with her father. And I think her father, she grew up in London just after the war. So it was all very sort of a touchy subject. So it was never spoken about that much. So now for me to come here, I think she finds it quite emotional. So it's nice.
So many people might be wondering whether you know any Polish words or not.
None. I'm trying to learn from you.
No, you're lying.
You told me how to say thank you.
Dziękuję.
Dziękuję. I already forgot. Dziękuję bardzo. Doesn't that mean thank you very much?
Dziękuję bardzo, tak.
Dziękuję bardzo. Yeah, there we go.
So now you know also tak, which means
tak?
yes.
Tak means yes.
Yeah.
Like
so
Danish.
These are 3 words.
Tak, I can
it's
do
a
tak.
nice start, I have to say.
I'm fluent.
Well, let's give us a week. It's gonna be great. You're gonna come back to play gigs later this year, of course, to promote your latest album. To promote a record that is an album that you've always wanted to make. Is it true?
Yeah, I mean, I guess you feel like that after every record. You know, when you're making every record, you're like, this is it. But there was something special about this one in the sense that I had a really clear idea before even writing a single song. The last 2 albums I did, they were written very close to each other. We toured both of them back to back, and so they kind of felt like part 1 and part 2. And after I was done with that, I realized I didn't want to do a trilogy. I didn't want it to continue. I wanted to sort of leave that behind. And also my life has changed a lot since those 2 albums. I'm a lot happier. I left London and I moved into the middle of the countryside. I have 2 children now, 3 dogs. You know, all the stuff I was writing about before, which was mainly angst and anger and troubles, have changed. You know, I've seen the light at the end of the tunnel. But I also didn't want to write a song or write an album, you know, always look on the bright side of life with birds and everything. I just wanted to do something special. And the one thing I felt that was really missing, which I had rediscovered in my life, was romance. I think it's something, we were talking about it earlier, that there's a lot of love songs on the radio, but I don't think that they're very romantic. They don't really create a scene or an atmosphere. It's just, you know, it's just words. But I felt like the atmosphere is sometimes missing in a lot of music today. So I really wanted to try and recreate that atmosphere that I think a lot of movie music, cinematic music from Italy, from France, from the 60s really had this sort of, the minute it started, you were swept away. And I really wanted this album to have that same effect.
Well, you've succeeded.
Thank you.
I have to admit. But Italian artists are very good at writing great romantic songs. So maybe that's part of it.
Yeah, I think it's definitely in Italian culture. We like romance. We don't shy away from it. Like, and I notice sometimes, for example, in England, it can maybe be sort of, it's too much. It can be a little bit like, ooh, I don't know, it's a bit too romantic. Like when somebody says that's too romantic, I think that's funny. I'm like, how can you be too romantic? Like that's to me, romantic has a positive connotation.
Something like that doesn't exist in Italy, for example. In France either.
You'd never say that's too romantic. No. It's not romantic enough, is what you would say. Whereas having, you know, the English surroundings, they're sort of be like, yeah, be cool, play it cool. I'm not cool. I don't play it cool. So I've decided to go full romance.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
How did the recording look like? Because the surroundings were great, as I know.
I mean, I really wanted to do something different. So I decided to leave London again, even for the recording. And I knew what would happen if we stayed in London. I knew that if we stayed in London, I would go in there with this idea and slowly it would be sort of conformed to an industry expectation of what an album should sound like, what's going to get on radio, what's going to work better. And I knew I was going to have all these different people telling me their ideas. And I really didn't want that because I had a really clear vision. So we decided to get out, to go somewhere where people couldn't really see us or hear us. So we went to Rome. And I was thinking in between Rome and Paris. Those were the 2 cities that I was really influenced by. One was sort of Serge Gainsbourg, that sound of Paris in the 60s. And the other one was Ennio Morricone and Patti Bravo, who's this Italian female singer. And I found out when I was talking to a friend of mine about this idea that he knew the owners of Ennio Morricone's studio in Rome. So when that moment happened, it was like a eureka moment where I was like, okay, well, that's why we have to do this. And they love the idea. We love the idea. My band loved the idea. My producer is crazy about Italy and crazy about Rome. He's Scottish, Cam Blackwood. By any excuse he can, he'll go to Italy. I think that's one of the main reasons I managed to get him to make this album, is because I was like, what about 10 days in Rome? I mean, everybody said yes very quickly when I suggested 10 days in Rome. So I've got a thing for the next album somewhere beautiful to do, because it's amazing what great talent you can get if you're doing it in a beautiful place.
So you could tell those people they have to dig a ditch, but it's going to happen in Rome?
But it'll be in Rome.
Okay.
They'll do it. Yeah, exactly. That's exactly it. It sounds a lot better if you're digging a ditch in Rome than if you're just doing it, next to your house. But the studio gave us a lot of magic. The equipment in the studio is incredible. The atmosphere, again, and this album is all about atmosphere. It really is. I always give importance to lyrics and all that, but that's what I've done. What's new about this album, what's different about this album, is there's a really strong sense of atmosphere, and that was very much given to us by the studio. I mean, Rome is a very atmospheric place. It's quite a overpowering city. It has a very strong identity. You can't change it. There's the expression "when in Rome," but the studio is what really gave us the magic touch, I think.
Mm-hmm. I think that the power behind your music, the real power, is the fact that it doesn't sound manufactured.
This definitely isn't. I mean, it's made by us. It's handmade in a very difficult situation too, because not everything works very well in Rome. It's quite a challenging city. If you're not used to it, everything is quite. When in Rome, you have to really adapt to the pace of the city. So we were destroyed after 10 days, but it was very satisfying. It was a really good feeling of we'd accomplished something. And I'm glad you feel that way, because there was nothing manufactured about this. There was a lot of, it sounds very cliche, but there was a lot of passion that went into everybody really showing how good they could play. And I think that studio made everybody play like that, because so many great composers have been in there. I mean, the studio has 12 Oscars, I think, to its name. So as musicians, I saw when my guys walked in, suddenly they acted differently. And it was like, okay, if we can record what just happened there, if you play like the way you're acting, this is going to be good. And I think that's what happened.
Mm-hmm. You act like quite an independent artist, because you don't want people to tell you what to do. You don't want, pieces of advice like, do something like that. It will sound good on the radio. It's not for you.
If it's my idea, I like that. I'm very stubborn, which isn't always a good thing. But I can immediately, not intentionally, I can immediately retract. If you say, I think you should do this, immediately I'll be like, whoa. It's not always a good quality. Sometimes I should listen to advice. But very early on in my career, I only listened to people's advice. And that didn't work out very well for me. So that's when I realized I'm actually okay with failure. Failure doesn't really scare me. What really bugs me is if I have to pay for somebody else's mistake. That I just don't want to allow myself to ever be in that position again. So I'm very happy with making mistakes. I'm very happy with getting it wrong, as long as I can look at myself in the mirror and go, you're the idiot that got it wrong. That's it. But I don't ever want to have to blame anybody else again.
Mm-hmm. But in the moment of failure, or in the moment when you have to pay for someone's mistakes, it's not that fun.
No, it's also just the lowest I've ever felt about myself, because I was more angry at myself for allowing somebody to put me in that situation, or allowing myself to be in that situation. So I understand if people make mistakes and all that, and it's not that I'll get angry at them. I'll get angry at myself for being in a situation where I have to then suffer or get left behind because of somebody else's mistake.
Mm-hmm. So working and following your own instinct, I think works great for you. Looking at those tours, sold out gigs and so on.
Yeah, but I mean, a lot of it is about, choosing everybody around you. That is where I think success comes from. Success comes from, the people you surround yourself by.
Your crew is not here, at least No, they are here, so you have to say nice things.
Yeah, they're all on Instagram. They're all taking selfies of it. One guy's working. We got Liam.
Yeah.
Liam's always working.
At least one person's working.
At least one of us working. No, but like that does make a fundamental difference. But from every aspect of the industry, you know, from whether it's crew, band, label, management, everybody has to have a certain, you know, there has to be an equal playing field for it to really work. I think when certain seniorities come into the picture, it creates a very unpleasant environment to work. That doesn't mean it doesn't cause success. That can create success too, but that's definitely not something that's ever really interested me. And I actually get more of a buzz out of doing it in a way that I want to do it and succeeding, even if it's not the same amount of success as doing it the other way can get you. I get more of a kick out of that. I've tried even the other way. I've been very open to like, okay, let's see how much you guys can do for my career. And great stuff has happened, and I didn't enjoy it. So that was a very simple, for me, that was a pretty revealing, okay, well, what's the point of doing this if it's not fun, if it doesn't feel like it's our victory? Because I do like the sort of that aspect of it too.
So you wouldn't be a good member of a boys band? Definitely being told what to do every single day.
No. I mean, but I never really understand. The reason I chose this sort of profession was because I didn't want to have a boss. I couldn't do it. I really struggled with that. So I don't understand when I see a lot of even peers or friends get into this business and be told constantly what to do. I think, you know, the artist has a very insecure side. We all have that, you know, element. And if you allow that to be too apparent to those around you, people do take advantage of it. And artists do fall into that trap a lot. I know I did at the beginning. You show your soul to somebody, you think that their interest is in protecting that, and then you realize actually they're just taking advantage of that. So it's just experience, I think.
Okay, but watching your performances and you being like really confident on stage or during interviews, no one will believe that you're a vulnerable artist.
Not now.
No one.
No, I was. Go look at the old interviews. I was a very naive, arrogant in all the wrong ways. And arrogance is usually a result of naive, you know, sort of vulnerability. You're trying to sort of front something else. No, now I don't think, I mean, I'm still arrogant. I'm still a pain in the ass, but I don't think I have that same sort of naiveness. This is my 6th album. If I was still naive to this industry, I'd be stupid. So I like to think that I'm many things, but hopefully not stupid. But it's early days. You never know. Maybe I'll be proved wrong. Maybe I am stupid.
But it's the trouble of working as a solo artist under your own name, not a band name. Like when it's someone's fault, okay, we know who to blame.
Yeah, it's a strange one because, you know, when you're a solo artist and your name is on the poster, you get all the credit too. And that's kind of confusing as well, because you can have moments where you totally buy into that and you totally believe it and you're like, yeah. And then if you spend a second to think about it, you're like, maybe this should be shared amongst various people that I work with that have helped this happen. And I think the quicker you get good at doing that, the quicker you enjoy the success. Because when you take the success just as yourself, yes, you have that moment of glory, but then you have incredible anxiety, incredible pressure, and not everybody can cope with that. I know for sure I can't. And the minute I started actually sharing the good stuff with people around me, it became a lot more fun. And don't get me wrong, I still like to give myself a pat on the back and tell myself, yay, but it's also nice to share it. It does make it a lot more fun.
Yeah, it might be beneficial because if you're your own boss, it's really hard to tell that your boss is a jerk.
Absolutely.
So let's avoid it.
Well, they still think I'm a jerk. I can guarantee there's definitely a side of me that's a jerk. But I think...
You're smiling.
Yeah, exactly. I have my moments.
I can see the smoke.
We should actually... That would be a fun interview. You should get artists and they have to bring their crew and band on stage. And you ask them
We've already done that when you were doing your warm-ups. Don't worry. We've got that covered.
Sorted. No, but I think it's beneficial for me if everybody involved tastes the good and the bad. You know what I mean? I want them to know when we're failing and I want them to know when we're succeeding. And I think that makes everybody a little bit more hands-on.
Yeah, that works great, I suppose. Well, it's amazing that 6 records in, still some people treat you as a newcomer. this is really surprising.
Yeah, I mean, I get it. A lot of people have no idea who I am. So some people say, this is my first album, second album, third album. And this is my sixth. It kind of freaks me out when I say this is my sixth album. Maybe I am stupid, actually. Going back to maybe I have kind of been a little bit too stubborn with this.
Because when you're playing sold out gigs and so on, and you're very popular among your fans in some countries, really, really popular, some people just now learn about your music. But does it bother you that, oh my God, 6 records? It took 6 albums.
No, it's look. Don't get me wrong. If you're not in the mood, it's tough. You're sort of like, especially when you start sort of touring and you're starting in some countries. We just went to America and nobody has any idea who. So you're starting right back from the beginning. But it's also there are moments in that are really exciting, and you kind of remind yourself of why you're doing this. There's something quite challenging about it, quite sort of I don't know, it's not all bad. It's not all bad. I do like, and the fact that anybody says anyway, even if it's the first time they're hearing you, if they're interested, that never gets old. And I think that's why people like myself keep doing it, because it never gets old. Even if you show up in a country you've never been before and one person goes, oh, I love you, I love this music, I didn't know you existed, that feels great. Like, that makes you come back to that place again and again and again until hopefully you do have an audience.
Yeah, you have a lot of time. So I'm just gonna check your mood right now. Your debut album is gonna be out in March.
Fresh off the block.
Fresh off the block.
God, I mean, if that was a debut album, then I'd be. No, I can safely say it's taken me 6 years to figure out how to make an album like that, and that is very much based on finding the right people to go into a studio and make an album with. And also label and management, and everybody has allowed me to create an album that I really wanted to make. As in the past, I've not really known, so it's been a lot of trial and error and figuring stuff out. This I feel like is definitely from the heart, as they say.